Hi, it's Christine Erickson again in this short series about managing fear. This is the second video in the series. And as I mentioned, I recently returned from Egypt and have had lots of conversations with people in the last couple days about the coronavirus. So there are conversations going on, there are posts, there are emails, there are texts, there are breaking news. There's a lot of information coming from a lot of different sources. And in fact, there's so much information and it's getting passed on from one person to the next and possibly even getting changed just a little bit in the process that it can be a little bit overwhelming. It's overwhelming because there's so much information, but it's also overwhelming just because of the topic itself. So historically, we have passed on information by word of mouth. That's the first way that we begin to communicate information before writing or any other documentation. This is a very normal way to communicate information, but it's not always consistent, accurate, because our conversation tends to change, or maybe I understand things a little bit differently, and so I use my own terminology as I pass on information to somebody else, and it changes the meaning maybe just a little bit, and then it gets passed on to the next person and the next person, and each time it gets changed a little bit. Plus, to be honest, for whatever reason, I don't know how it happens. Maybe it's because of a lack of information, but sometimes we fill in the gaps with what we think is true, and so there's a lot of misinformation out there. So my first recommendation on managing fear is to fact check. And this can be a little bit challenging because there are so many sources of information, but if it's possible, before you pass on information, you might just want to try and verify where that information is coming from and how accurate it is, and does it need to be passed on. There are some things that are really helpful, some things that we really need to know, and some things that may be more discouraging. And I'm not saying that we should hide information, but just be aware as you pass on information, or aware as you receive information, how much of it is true, and how is it serving you and those around you. So that's my first tip on managing fear, is be aware of the information coming in and going out.